Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Just before we start, though, I have a couple of announcements. First off, I want to thank everybody who subscribed recently. We recently breached the 1,000 subscriber mark, and I finally feel like a real YouTuber. It's a big deal because I finally was able to put in an application for monetization, and hopefully it is approved soon. Super excited about it. This is something that I've set out, pretty much has been the goal since I started doing this. It's the way that my brain has decided to measure success for this channel, and we finally met it. And I'm ecstatic about that. I think that that's really cool, and I feel like there's a lot less imposter syndrome now. I made like some hard and fast criteria, and I met it, and it's all thanks to you guys, and I really appreciate that. In addition, I've added a link to the description of this video, and it'll be in future videos, that is for my Patreon. If ads start rolling on my videos, you are not expected to watch them at all. If there is an aggressive amount of ads, it's not something that will be under my control, and I can only make recommendations to YouTube about where and when to place ads in videos and such. If for whatever reason it is an unacceptable amount of ads, you don't have to watch them. Feel free to skip them, use ad block, whatever you want to do to get around them. It won't be any skin off my nose. But I've added the Patreon because I've gotten requests for people to... Some people have expressed the desire to want to support me more directly, and I feel like the Patreon's a good way to do that. So if that interests you, if you don't want to watch ads, that's totally fine. If you don't want to watch ads and you feel bad about not supporting me through that, you can throw me $1 at Patreon. And that's really all I have to say about that. So thank you so much for all you guys' support. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get on to today's Tron list, which is something a little bit special. Today, we have no Karn Great Creator. This is the most recent 5.0 list of Tron. No Wishboard in sight. Solely consistency tools and a lot of main deck ballistas and a lot of main deck Relic of Progenitus, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if this is in response to the increase of Blitz in the metagame or the increase of Dredge. I don't know, maybe this was just a fluke, but I see a lot of grave hate in the side with surgical extractions, lots of nature's claims for opposing decks that may contain artifacts, so like Tron Hate, Damping Spheres, that sort of thing. We got Veil of Summers for anti-control, lots of anti-aggro with several Thrag Tusks, Dismembers for if we really need a kill spell. I suspect that might be due to Blitz. And of course the Kozilek, which everybody said was bad, but I thought was good. So I'm really interested to see how this deck does without Karn Great Creator. I am of the personal opinion pre-league that not playing Karn Great Creator is a mistake. But I can see a situation where if the meta has shifted to something really aggressively hyperfast, like Magecraft Blitz or whatever you want to call it, a deck like this might actually be more reasonable than your typical build. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a competitive league. Alright, so for game one, we'll be on the draw. This is a mulligan. This, I believe, is a keep. I'm going to go ahead and put back Ugin. Hope I don't regret that. But I think we do need both cantrips off of the Chromatic Stars. That's looking like a Blitz start. We draw Relic. So play Power Plant, play Star. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Scalding Tarn. Cracks Scalding Tarn. Shocks a Steam Vents. Manamorphose. Well, I really hope it's not Stormwing Entity. I do regret putting Ugin back, but there was no way for me to know. It's Stormwing Entity. Something tells me we're about to have a bad time. Opponent hits us for 2, we draw Ulamog. Sack Star for green. We draw a tower. Play tower. Play star. Sack Star for green. Ancient Stirrings. Get mine. Rest of the bottom. Pass the turn. So next turn, we can either play Karn, or we can play Wormcoil Engine plus Relic of Progenitus, depending on which we think is going to be more effective versus our opponent. The good news is, whatever we do play, we're following up with Urza's Tower into Ulamog, which is probably the only chance we have of beating this deck without sideboarding. So, okay, opponent starts a Lava Dart into a Light Up the Stage, hitting Spirebluff Canal and a Stormwing Entity. Burst Lightning, that's 10 damage. They're probably going to Lava Dart as well. Oh gosh, we're just dead. There's nothing we can do about it, we're just dead. Now, had we been on the play, we may have stood a chance, but we lost the coin toss, so that is unfortunate. Okay, so versus Blitz, how do we board? I think we do need a Dismember, probably over an Oblivion Stone. I think an Ulamog can come out for a Thrag Tusk. A Relic can come out for a Thrag Tusk. My opponent doesn't play that many threats, and so like Surgical Extraction is tempting, but we don't have a lot of ways to kill stuff, and we can't be spending all of our life on that. I also think we're not going to need this Ghost Quarter, and I'm going to play a Thrag Tusk in its place. And I think this is the best way I can board for this. Opponent just had the high power hand. Alright, we get to be on the play for game 2. This is kind of close to a keep, but it's still a mulligan. This is a mulligan. Towertron. Can I put back 2 towers and start tower map? Mulligan to 4 is probably on average way worse than this. So start tower, play map. Pass the turn. Opponent leads on Spirebluff Canal into Soulscar Mage. We untap, draw Thrag Tusk. So we can either play Forest, activate map, play Forest, play Sphere, or play Forest, play Ballista. I think we got a Forest map here. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Mountain, Sprite Dragon. They go to combat, attack for 2. Alright, we may have drawn out a line that we can use to our advantage here. Perfect draws. Play Ballista. If they had Mutagenic Growth, they would have used it immediately. Kill Sprite Dragon, play Sphere, pass the turn. We got a pretty lucky top deck with that Tron land. Opponent plays a Swift Spear, Lava Darts our face, hits us for 4, we go to 13, we untap and draw Forest, cycle for green, Players is mine, play Thrag Tusk, gain 5. I don't want to dismember just yet. I would dismember a Stormwing entity, I think, first. So opponent plays a Fiery Islet. I suppose if my opponent just goes nuclear, I'll dismember. So they Lightning Bolt Thrag Tusk, Prowess, Thrag Tusk down. Then they play Stormwing Entity. And they go Scrying. So we are going to chump. They do have Lava Dart, so they can just kill the beast by attacking. And we're going to have to dismember the Stormwing Entity because that's, I think, way more dangerous. If we get a map, we can Blast Zone to kill the 1-drops. So block here. Opponent will Lava Dart our face. We'll end up taking 3. Okay. We go to 10. Untap and draw Sylvan Scrying. That works. So we go get Blast Zone. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Scalding Tarn. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Sack Blast Zone. Opponent Vapor Snags their own Soulscar Mage. We kill Swift Spear. They fetch with Scalding Tarn. They shock Steam Vents. They have a second Stormwing entity. Nope, they just replay a Soulscar Mage. We untap. We draw Ancient Stirrings. Cast Ancient Stirrings. And then we get... They have nothing they can flashback for free. So Walking Ballista is tempting. The problem with Wormcoil Engine is if I play Wormcoil Engine, they can just shrink it. But I guess it's still better. Play Wormcoil. I will say playing that this build of Tron without Karn Great Creator feels a lot more like traditional Tron, even with the Walking Ballista edition. Pass the turn. There's no threat that we need 9 mana over 8 mana for, so... Opponent sacks Fiery Islet. Vapor Snags Wormcoil. Lava Darts us. Are they going to Lava Dart again? They are. Opponent is going deep, but this does put us dead to Bolt. We draw another tower, play Wormcoil. Does opponent have the top deck Bolt? Opponent scoops it up. Because as soon as we connect once, we were out of range. So, yep. Dismembering against Blitz is really scary, but sometimes necessary. I'm going to go ahead and run it back. Alright. This is not a keepable hand. That's a mulligan. This might technically work, but I think that's still too scary. This doesn't work either. Alright, down to 3 versus Blitz. Let's go! Luck of the Tron, don't fail me now. Opponent leads on Soulscar Mage. Players is mine, play map. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Spirebluff Canal. Manamorphose, so they're going to have the Stormwing Entity play probably. Which is pretty dang good for their deck. It's about as good as it gets. Stormwing Entity. They hit us for 2. We untap and draw Karn Liberated. Pass the turn. Will Karn Liberated be enough? Probably not, unless my opponent's holding 5 lands. They play a mountain. Well, that's the first step to 5 lands. Swift Spear, that is not a land. Sprite Dragon is also not a land. They go to combat. They're going to hit us for 6. We're going to 12. We're dead to basically any spell next turn. So we get Tower. Untap. Draw Ancient Stirrings. Play Tower. This is our only real play here. Play Karn. Take out Stormwing. If my opponent only had 1 card in hand, I would be tempted to take their card with his uptick. Yeah, I think we're dead. Opponent's hand was pretty crazy. Ours was about as good as it gets, too, for being on the draw and mulliganing to 4. Like, my opponent has to have nothing here. Or like a Stormwing Entity, and then we untap and draw Ugin. That's about how we get out of this. Opponent's swinging at us. We untap. Oh my god. Tron gods smileth upon me. Allow me to bask in your radiance, Tron gods. I should have started uptick Karn, because if they have Bolt... Well, I guess if they have Bolt, we would have died, but... -2 the Ugin. They Vapor Snag Sprite Dragon. They crack Scalding Tarn. They get a Steam Vents tapped. We exile their board. Uptick to take a card from their hand. Mountain. Pass the turn. So they have a Sprite Dragon, 1 unknown. There's the Sprite Dragon. Burst Lightning our face. We are going to 2. I think I have to top deck a Thragtusk now to guarantee I survive. Ulamog. Ulamog does it if I can Stirrings into Tower, I think. Well, play Stirrings. Another Ugin. We're going to take Wormcoil. Rest to the bottom. Uptick. Shoot Sprite Dragon. So this negates Swift Spear and basically nothing else. 4 mana is effectively the same. Yeah, we'll take a land. We're taking their mountains just in case of Lava Dart, I guess. But that only works if we survive 1 turn, which if we do, we win. They have to hit a land here, basically. We're dead to everything else. Except maybe Vapor Snag. That gives us another turn, but that's not real. It's not a real... Oh my god! Tron gods! Thank you. Alright, see you guys in round 2. Alright, we're on the draw for round 2, and we are against some sort of Yorion deck. This hand is not keepable. This hand very much is. So, time to see if this is like Yorion combo, Yorion taxes. It's looking like Yorion combo. Hopefully, turn 3 Tron into Karn is good enough. So, start Mind Map, pass the turn. When it plays Prismatic Vista and cracks it. Gets a Forest. Renin 6. Okay. We untap, draw another Mind, play Tower, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, plays Prismatic Vista, cracks it, gets a Swamp, picks up Prismatic Vista, and passes the turn. So let's go get Power Plant. Untap, see what we draw. Forest. They're Assassins trophying the tower. Okay, go get a Forest. Play Power Plant. Play Map. Map for Tower. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays Prismatic Vista. Cracks it. Is this just Yorion Jund? It's kind of looking like Yorion Jund. They pick up Prismatic Vista. We untap. Draw Karn. Another one? How do you have 2 Assassins trophies? When you're in an 80-card deck, that's very tilting. Extremely so. Because now they're going to bring to light, and we are going to be in trouble. Yep. That's... Alright. I hope I conceded before they got to look at my deck list. I was F6'd. Oh, that's really frustrating. We're going to bring in Veil of Summer. We'll drop an Oblivion Stone and a Walking Ballista. I'm going to bring in Kozilek, just in case. I do want an extra removal spell, basically. Maybe I want Surgical to just stop Ren and 6 fetch land shenanigans. I don't think that's good. I think it's better to just have Walking Ballista as a kill spell. I'm going to bring in some number of Nature's Claim, actually. I'm going to cut a Worm Coil Engine. We'll bring in a third one. I don't know if I want all 4. Alright, we'll be on the play for game 2. This hand's not keepable. This one technically is. So we'll keep. Put back Sanctum. Start Power Plant and Star. This is less resilient versus Hand Hate, but better in the form of we're actually going to draw a couple of times before we assemble Tron. So we might actually draw a threat here. Cycle Star for green first. Play Mine. Scrying. Okay, opponent cracks Windswept Teeth. Probably for a Triome. Yep. Scrying resolves. We get Tower. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays a Pillar of the Perins. Well, they can't play Damping Sphere off that, so I guess that's something. Draw Tower. Get our Mine trophied. Get a Forest. Play Tower. Play Map. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They pass. Activate Map, get Mine. Untap. Draw Stirrings. Come on, dude. I guess if you just always have it, you can't beat this. Play Mine. Play Sphere. Crack Sphere for green. Play Sphere. Crack Sphere for green. We draw a Tower. Ancient Stirrings. Tower gets us to 9, so we'll take Ugin. Rest of the bottom, any order. We'll leave up Nature's Claim, just in case they have, like, land Damping Sphere or something. I doubt they're playing it, because they are an 80-card deck. They play a Ren and 6. Okay. Pick up Windswept Teeth. Play Windswept Teeth. Pass. We untap. Draw Ancient Stirrings. Yeah, Ancient Stirrings. Get Ulamog. Rest of the bottom. Play Tower. Alright, they scooped. Thankfully, because we can't beat that draw probably 9 out of 10 times. I'm not going to surgically extract Assassin's Trophy. The odds of them having multiple is pretty low. But no further adjustments, we'll just run it back. Well, I can't keep a no-lander. Going to 6. Going to 5. Yeah, 4. God, this is pretty abysmal. Put back Scrying, Engine, Power Plant. Opponent kept a 7 card hand. They play Forest. Abundant Growth, they get to draw a card. We untap, draw Ulamog, play Power Plant, play Sphere, pass the turn. We gotta rely on the luck of the Tron draw this game. This hand was pretty abysmal to start, but this, I think, was better than going to 3 most of the time. Opponent has Ren and 6 every game, because why not? You know, turn 3 Karn, like Stone Raining your opponent, isn't good when they can just draw out of it 9 times out of 10. Like, you lose out on the games that your opponent was, like, missing a draw or 2. Okay, we get a Tower. Rest of the bottom. Play the Tower. Play Sphere. Or Star, excuse me. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Plays Prismatic Vista. Cracks it. Gets an island. Picks up the land. Every freaking game, like, the same 5-card start in an 80-card deck. I talk about the high side and the low side of variance, and we're hitting the low end on our side this game. I guess I deserve this after I won the last game, how I won it. But play Chromatic Star, play another Power Plant, and it's a little late for Veil of Summer, unfortunately. If we'd had it, it wouldn't have mattered. If my opponent had waited, it would have mattered. So opponent somehow foresaw the fact that we had Veil of Summer this time. This is so tilting. I try very, very hard to not get tilted playing games of Magic, and I think that since I'm recording this after streaming, it's probably like, you know, I've already had my fill of Magic for the day, and I'm probably just getting a little grumpy, but Omnath, yep, it's pretty good. Opponent passes, draw Ugin, cycle and try and draw, Nature's Claim, Abundant Growth, pass the turn. So I guess if my opponent has land, Bring to Light, and they try an Unmoored Ego taking a Tron land, we can Veil of Summer in response, but They play Utopia Sprawl. Name black. They cast Bring to Light. Yep. They got another Assassin's Trophy. I actually can't beat this. I don't think anybody can beat this. Not playing this, or any version of Tron for that matter. So, we were destined to lose that. I'll see you guys in round 3. Alright, we're on the play for round 3, and I think this is fine for a 7. Okay. So, lead on Power Plant, play Sphere, pass the turn. Opponent leads on Stomping Ground, untapped, play Shriekhorn. The one time I was actually thinking, I was like, I should lead on Relic of Progenitus, just to be mean. Cycle, honestly, I think I play Relic and play Tower. Make him exile a card. Alright. I'm sorry about getting salty. I don't normally do that. In fact, I go through great lengths to avoid getting salty playing Magic. I think it's just been a long day, and that was some particularly ridiculous variance. Alright, opponent plays a Sacred Foundry tapped, and passes. We untap, draw Ugin, play Chromatic Sphere, sack it for green. Well, we found the mine, Ancient Stirrings. Take another mine. So they don't know that we have the second mine here. Pass the turn. So exile their only land. They mill a Thug and a Loam. So generally the way that I use Relic against Dredge is I wait for my opponent to have a particularly effective Dredge, then nuke the grave. Okay, so they Dredge Golgari Thug, which they can't cast. They don't have black mana, though I don't know why they would cast it. They do have Thrilling Discovery in their deck as basically Cathartic Reunions 4 through 8, depending on how many they're running. Opponent cycles Forgotten Cave, so they're going to Dredge Loam here. That's fine. We actually wouldn't mind them making a big board because we would just immediately recover it with Ugin. Opponent plays Gemstone Mine. This probably is Thrilling Discovery or Cathartic Reunion. Opponent changes their mind. They are instead going to Loam. Okay. Do we nuke the grave? I don't think so. We untap and draw a second Ugin. So play Ugin. Play Chromatic Star. Make our opponent exile a card. Uptick Ugin. Pass the turn. I'm really glad the designer of this list put in 3 relics. Because I suspect Dredge is going to do well in a meta against Blitz because of cards like Conflagrate and now Thrilling Discovery. Dredge gaining life through Creeping Chill and Thrilling Discovery seems pretty nasty versus aggressive decks like that. So I think being teched against it in this sort of metagame is pretty good. Opponent goes to draw step, does not... Oh, they do Dredge. They Dredge a Loam. So they gain access to a Conflagrate. They can Loam to pick up a card. They can cycle Forgotten Cave first to pick up 1 extra. Is my opponent casting Conflagrate? Cathartic Reunion. Okay. That makes more sense. So opponent dredges a bunch. A whole heck of a lot, actually. Okay. Actually, I should not auto-yield to those because I might need to crack Relic in response to the next one. Okay, we get drained. Opponent gets Narcomoeba, Amalgam Trigger, Narcomoeba, Amalgam, Narcomoeba, Amalgam. Now what does our opponent do? Because we do have an onboard Ugin. They have lands in hand, so they can play them and get back their Bloodghast. And they could Conflagrate us to give the Bloodghast haste. But, I mean, we would still go down to... I mean, we only go down to, like, 6 life. And if we draw a Tron land in the top 2 or 3 cards of our deck, opponent's probably going to have a bad time. So they're cycling Cave to Dredge Thug, I guess. Yeah, they hit another Narcomoeba. Okay, Amalgam. So, kind of thankful they're not going for the Conflagrate play here, as that would be really scary. Does my opponent have a choice on bringing these back? No, those are not Maze. Okay, we untap. We draw Oblivion Stone. Actually, should cycle this first. Perfect. Play Tower. -3. Play Ulamog. Nuke 2 lands. And now we even have access to Relic of Progenitus. Nice. So that was like as ideal as it gets versus Dredge. Opponent, we have 3 Surgical Extractions. I think I take out the Walking Ballistas in this matchup. They just don't seem very good. We may want Veil of Summer, but I think it's pretty narrow. Karn is not as good as it could be here. So, like, I could actually probably take out Karn Liberated for Thrag Tusks, because they are technically an aggro deck, and us having a bunch of life would be good. But I think between 3 relics and 3 surgical extractions, we're probably fine. Because all we have to do is surgically extract 1 or 2 of their payoffs, and, like, we're good to go. Or the dredgers, because if we can surgically extract a dredger in response to, like, a discard draw haggle effect, in general, that'll take care of things. So, this hand is not particularly fast, and doesn't have Grave Hate, so I'm going to mulligan. This hand is maybe good. It's very top deck reliant. We have no Grave Hate. I think it's still worth keeping. I'm going to put back Sanctum. But I mean, if we draw most of the land tutors in our deck, any Grave Hate, we do have All Is Dust if we do get Tower, even if we get Tower just a little bit late. We untap, draw Forest, play Power Plant, pass the turn. If we draw Sylvan Scrying, this is a turn 4 Tron guaranteed. We did not draw a map for our first draw. Opponent milled only lands, which is pretty unlucky for a dredge deck. So if they don't shock Stomping Ground, okay, I was going to say, if they don't have a payoff here, they're probably not going to win unless we just draw nothing. Okay, they loam, they get 3 lands back. That's not a bad end result there. So we did draw Relic, so play Mine, play Relic. Go ahead and exile a card out of their grave. Pass the turn. Now, if we can happen to Lucksack into Tower, we'll be pretty good. Okay, opponent dredges into a single Narcomoeba. I'm going to let him have that. I think that's fine. So we know our opponent is holding 3 lands and a loam. They have 8 cards in hand right now. They cycle Forgotten Cave, so they can dredge loam if they want to. They do. There's a Nature's Claim, Stinkweed Imp, and Shriekhorn that they just dredged. They play Wooded Foothills, crack Wooded Foothills. So they get an untapped land, they can play loam again if they want to. They don't. Interesting. Okay, we untap. Draw Wormcoil Engine. That's kind of part of that nothing draw I was talking about. But this hand had a pretty high degree of risk, so we knew what we were getting into. And the fact that we got Relic is actually pretty huge. The only way that it's kind of bad is if my opponent has Nature's Claim in hand right now. Or if they Shriekhorn themselves into an Ancient Grudge. So opponent dredges Stinkweed Imp. They mill Prized Amalgam, Conflagrate, Cathartic Reading, and some lands. I think even if they want to Conflagrate here for a huge amount, I'm going to let them. Because if they just like dump their hand and have nothing to back it up with, we're good to go. Like, okay, opponent going to loan back some lands. Sure. I am somewhat tempted to crack Relic here this turn because I do want to try and draw and get Tower. But this is a minimal benefit dredge if I do. Or like a minimal benefit graveyard to hit. Opponent didn't even attack with Narcomoeba. So we're going to wait for them to discard for turn. Bloodghast and Mountain. We untap, draw Karn, play Forest, pass the turn. They're doing this on our main so that they can potentially get Amalgam back. So I'm going to cycle Relic, because if I hit a land tutor here... I mean, like, it sucks because I did play Forest, so I won't be able to play out any of my big threats immediately. But with All Is Dust in hand, I'm fine. I'm pretty confident that we could recover from basically any board. Surgical's nice. Opponent mills themselves into Ancient Grudge. I could Surgical Thug. Opponent's gonna cycle Cave. I'm gonna Surgical Thug. Opponent only has 2 Thugs. So what dredgers do they have left? I guess they can Cathartic, or they can Conflagrate, then Cathartic, and that would be pretty good. Or they may not even need to do that, actually. Okay, this may have been kind of jumping the gun on the Surgical. I think it's actually probably better to Surgical to payoffs than it is to Surgical to dredgers, because like if your opponent's not bringing back Amalgams and isn't creeping chilling you as a dredge player, you're probably winning. So, yeah, I think I just jumped the gun on that. I definitely deserve to lose this match if I keep playing like that. Thrilling Discovery. Okay, so this was a top deck. So they're going to get a lot of dredges here. We're basically going to be relying on top decking Tower and hitting All Is Dust to recover from this. Odds are, even if we do that, our opponent's going to be able to reload. Okay, so they got a big dredge off. Thrilling Discovery into Cathartic Reunion is pretty good, I hear. But basically, we need to draw Tower, All Is Dust, to reset the board, and then top deck like Ugin to exile the board when it inevitably comes back. So opponent gets a Bloodghast by playing a land tapped. They're going to get back all their prized amalgams. We get hit for 1. We untap. We draw a mine, which is not that thing we said, and we're going to die to Conflagrate, so we'll scoop it up. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So I partially deserved that. In fact, probably mostly. Let's go ahead and run it back. So we know our opponent has Ancient Grudges and Nature's Claims in their deck. Alright, we will be on the play for game 3. Too risky. This is risky, but I think it's worth it. So we're going to put back O-Stone. We're going to try and get double Relic down as fast as possible. We do have Surgical to back us up. So double Relic is very hard for Dredge to beat, mainly because they have difficulty dumping cards into the grave and having them last long enough to actually dredge. Double Relic Surgical should be enough to keep our opponent off of Dredge long enough that we can find green mana for Stirrings, or, map, that sort of thing. Plus, we're on the play. Opponent starts Bloodstained Mire. They're careful not to crack the Mire on our turn. Oops. Play second Relic. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Now, this alone will not beat Dredge. They can just wait this out. We will have to find Tron and apply pressure. Okay, opponent plays Shriekhorn. We untap. Draw Ulamog. Play Star. Pass the turn. Opponent Shriekhorns themselves. Ooh, if I Surgical Stinkweed Imp, they might be in trouble. Activate Relic. They'll crack Bloodstained Mire in response so they can exile the land. Let me get an idea here of what they're going to do. So they get a Stomping Ground tapped. So they'll exile Bloodstained Mire. We want to see which one they want to keep here. And then we're going to Surgical that one, I think. Okay. We'll wait to see if they mill themselves on their upkeep. Surgical Loam. I know I just got done explaining how it's probably better to Surgical the enablers than it is to try and do whatever it is I'm doing right now, but they're holding 2 Stinkweeds in hand, so if they ever do get a Cathartic Reunion or a way to dump cards directly from hand into grave, they're going to get a big dredge off. Thrilling Discovery is actually a little bit harder to interact with than Cathartic Reunion now that I'm realizing, because if we wanted to, we could crack Relic in response to them discarding the cards as an additional cost. Okay, they Ancient Grudge our Relic, mill themselves. So that protects their Ancient Grudge. We draw a Sphere. Sack Star for green. See what we draw. Karn. Ancient Stirrings. Ooh, this is bad. This is real bad. Take Star. Rest of the bottom. I was expecting we were going to hit a land there, because this has been a number of draw steps and Stirrings. We didn't get it. Now my opponent can flashback Ancient Grudge, get rid of our Relic while we're tapped out, and we might be in some huge trouble. Okay, there goes our Grave Hate. They play a Stomping Ground untapped. They mill themselves into a Bloodghast. And Cathartic Reunion, double Stinkweed. Well, they got a big dredge, but no real payoff. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, whatever we do, it's going to be too late. My opponent can, with an Ox, dredge literally the rest of their deck. So, there's nothing we can do next turn. We're actually just going to die here. So, our hand started off pretty good. I definitely Surgicaled the wrong thing again. I got greedy. I thought it would be okay. Yeah, opponent's going to get back some stuff. We will not have enough time to assemble Tron and do anything. That Ancient Stirrings whiffing and not finding a land really hurt. I tend to have actually pretty terrible luck with Stirrings. That's a funny game. Sack this for green. Okay, let's think about this. Opponent has 6, 7, 8, 13, presumably Loam. No, we Surgical all the Loams, right? Okay, hang on. So they'll have 4 cards in hand. They have 13 on board. If I had drawn a Tron land and was able to assemble Tron this turn, I may have stood a chance. As it stands, though, yeah, it's not like I can Sylvan Scrying for Bojuka Bog. They could Conflagrate us, and I think we go down to 1. No, we're definitely dead because they have Bloodghasts. Although they might not be able to do damage. Okay, I'll try and play this out. We'll play Forest, Scrying, and get Tower. I mean, it's not like I have Explore, and I won't be able to play and activate Oblivion. So, yeah, I don't think I can come back. We're not literally dead this turn, but we are effectively dead. And this time, it's definitely my fault. Like, I did run into some variants here with the Ancient Stirrings. I think this keep was okay. My Surgical Extraction last game and this game were terrible. And Surgical is a very skill testing card. And as I've demonstrated, I am not one with a lot of skill. Yeah, we just drew all our Tron lands too late. Sad day. I think I would have to have actual fog to live here. Alright, scoop it up. And I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, round 4. We have no lands in our opener, so that's a mulligan. Okay, no lands again, so that's a mulligan. Sure. I'll put back Oblivion Stone and a Karn. Now, best possible top deck is a Tron land that isn't Power Plant. Next best top deck, I think, would be Sylvan Scrying. Not 100% in terms of what the win percentage is. Opponent starts Marsh Flats into Temple Garden into Arbor Elf. So we're probably against Heliod Company. So there's an Ancient Stirrings. Play a Forest. Play Star. Cycle Star for green. We get Sphere. Ancient Stirrings. We get Mine. Rest of the bottom. Pass the turn. Okay, so this will be a turn 4 Tron into Karn. We will have 8 mana on turn 4, so if we draw an Ugin along the way, we'll be able to deal with basically any board that my opponent can put out. And we are playing 2 Ugins. Okay. Opponent plays a Plains into an Auriok Champion, untaps Temple Garden, and plays an Arbor Elf, gains a life. We untap, Chromatic Sphere. So play Mine, play Sphere, cycle Sphere for green. We get a Star, activate, we'll go get Tower, pass the turn. So the concern here is that my opponent has Collected Company, and they play the Ranger Captain of Eos. Okay, yeah, it's looking like Coco. So doing it on their own turn, I think is correct because, yeah, they can Ranger Captain for a 1-drop, and then they have 1 more mana off of their other Arbor Elf. If they want to play a 1-drop, odds are they just get Walking Ballista and then crack Ranger Captain on our upkeep. And if they get a Utopia Sprawl, I think if they have a Utopia Sprawl, I actually think they have enough to combo off. So our only hope, if my opponent sacks Ranger Captain on our upkeep, is that we draw Walking Ballista. I mean, we have 3 in the main deck, which against this particular situation is quite good. Normally, I dislike having Walking Ballistas in the main deck. I don't think they're good in Tron. But with us not having Karn Great Creator, it's definitely better against a lot of these low-to-the-ground decks that have a lot of X1s. So we untap. Opponent sacks Ranger Captain. Wow. And we drew Oblivion Stone. Ranger Captain may as well be Time Warp against us. 9 out of 10 times. It's really good. So they fetch and shock a Temple Garden. They have 6 mana. 3rd Auriok Champion. That probably means no combo. Oh my god. Oh, that's so brutal. We can still draw Walking Ballistas. 3 out of 48 chance, which works out to be 1 in 16. Alright, opponent gets a redundant Ballista. Gains a bunch of life. We're not scared of infinite life, but we are scared of arbitrarily large amounts of damage and Ranger Captain Chain into beatdown for lethal. They hit us for 3. We untap. Yep. Draw Ancient Stirrings. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent goes to combat. Attacks us for 5. We go to 10. They play a Conclave Mentor. Gain a bunch of life. Ballista on 2. Okay. We untap. Draw Forest. So, Ancient Stirrings, All Is Dust, Wormcoil, Wormcoil, Wormcoil. Take All Is Dust, rest of the bottom, play Forest, and we're going to go with the Oblivion Stone play here, because my opponent hasn't played out Heliod yet, so that would be when we want to All Is Dust. Now, technically, I could draw this out onto my opponent's turn, but then there's a huge risk of my opponent making the Ballista really, really big, or just in general causing more problems. I think it's best if we take out our opponent as is. Okay, opponent untaps. They play Pendlehaven. Walking Ballista X2. So this is probably a Karn down tick. Yeah, alright. But we can start by cycling Star. Get a Mine. Play a Power Plant. Play Sphere. Cycle Sphere. Sanctum. It's a little disappointing, but we do have to play Karn here, otherwise we're going to take way too much damage. Nuke Ballista, because we have to. They can choose to ping us, or they can choose to ping Karn. They ping us. I think that's reasonable. Man, if my opponent had a third Ranger Captain there, we would have absolutely lost. Like, taking us off of that Oblivion Stone again. Opponent's got Spike Feeder. We untap. Draw Walking Ballista. Uptick. Exile the card out of our opponent's hand. It was a Skyclave Apparition. Play Sanctum, and now we're going to play an absolutely massive Ballista. And this should win the game, because we can snipe basically anything they would play at this point. And then we're going to follow this up with Ulamog. Okay, opponent's going to gain life. They're going to Pendelhaven it. Ping it again. So that just ensures the Ballista gets as small as possible. And I don't think there's a single card they could top deck here. Like, Collected Company might be their most value. But I don't think there's any two combinations of creatures, even if they had Collected Company, that with this amount of mana would kill us. So I don't think we should have won that. I think that was favored for our opponent. So we're definitely going to have Dismembers here. Do we want Surgical Extractions? We could potentially stop the combo. I don't know, but we definitely want Nature's Claim. I think we're going to cut the Relics. We'll cut an Ulamog, one Worm Coil, and a Ghost Quarter. Try it like this. Alright, that's not a keepable hand. This really isn't either. So we're going to go to 5. Alright, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to put back Sanctum and Ulamog. Any land gets us to Blast Zone on 1, which could matter versus our opponent. Sphere or Star gets us to Sylvan Scrying, which is turn 3 Tron. Or, of course, Power Plant. So we had 12 cards we could draw there that would have gotten us to Tron. Which is pretty good when you think about the number of cards you could possibly top deck in Tron. Opponent's got a slow hand. We draw Ballista, which is good. So play Tower, cycle Sphere for green, draw Ballista, Sylvan Scrying will get Power Plant, pass the turn. So even if my opponent plays Ranger Captain here, we can play a big Walking Ballista. Like even if they try and prevent us from casting spells, we still have Walking Ballista. And I think as far as Tron with Walking Ballista goes, this is the situation, like this is the deck that Walking Ballista is best against. So it's worth having in the main deck. Okay, opponent fetches and shocks a Temple Garden. This is a Heliod? It is a Heliod, okay. We untap and draw Sphere. So play Power Plant, play Sphere, play a big Ballista, and by big I mean X3. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Pendelhaven. Well, they can't gain infinite life off of Spike Feeder, because as soon as they remove a counter, we can remove a counter, and then they Pendelhaven, and then we remove another counter. And it's not that we're particularly scared of infinite life or anything like that, it just means that they can't, and can't delay the inevitable that way. So we untap, draw Karn, which is a pretty big deal here. Play Blast Zone, play Karn, because we can take out Heliod this way. Okay, opponent sets up to gain 2 life. We ping, they'll activate Pendelhaven, and we'll ping again. Okay, so they gain 2. Go to combat. Hit them for 1. They go to 19. Untap. They play Horizon Canopy. But now they're fighting on the back foot, because we got the first engagement here. Yeah, Ballista in this matchup is insane. And I'm really happy we have them in this list. They definitely won us this game. And this match, I mean. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 5. Long final queue time. Alright, we'll be on the draw for the final round against a Lurrus deck. We have 2/3 of Tron. I think this is worth keeping, actually. Alright, we draw a Relic. And I think I've made a mistake because my opponent is on Colossus Hammer. Pass the turn. So we very quickly need to get down this Oblivion Stone or probably just die. They hit us for 1. Then play Colossus Hammer. Then play Colossus Hammer. Alright, we untap. We draw Sylvan Scrying. Cycle Relic. Get Ballista. That's going to be too late because I know they've got Pure Steel from the way they tapped. Yep. Lethal. Okay, so sideboard versus this. I think we want Dismembers. A full set of Nature's Claim. We're going to cut Relic. And All is Dust. Both Ugins. And run it back. I could bring in Surgicals. We could Surgical Colossus Hammer, but I don't know if that's actually worth it. We'll play first. Alright, this hand, not worth. This hand might be. We'll keep. Put back Ulamog. And start Power Plant into Star. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Godless Shrine untapped into a Springleaf Drum, into a Memnite, into a Sigarda's Aid. Okay. We untap and draw Ulamog. So play a Forest. Pass. Opponent untaps. We're really going to make them think this time. Alright. So they play a Stoneforge Mystic, and they're going to get Colossus Hammer. Let's go ahead and cycle for green. We get Sylvan Scrying. It's Nature's Claim, Sigarda's Aid. Untap. Draw Tower. Play Tower. Play Sphere. Sylvan Scrying. Get mine. Blast Zone was also a consideration there. Okay, opponent plays Pure Steel Paladin. Plays Colossus Hammer. They get to suit up the Memnite and hit us for 11. We untap. We draw Wormcoil Engine. Players is mine. Cycle for green. Okay, so that's Ulamog next turn. Play Wormcoil Engine. Pass the turn. Opponent Thought Seizes us, so we try and take out the hammer. I mean, if they have a path and they take our only play, they could just beat us down. Second hammer. That's not good, but at least we do get some blocks here. Opponent has to suit up Stoneforge if they want to keep Metalcraft without playing anything else. Second hammer. Oh, third hammer, actually. My goodness. On today's episode of Drawing Your Playsets. Oh my god. Oh man, we've got a lot of games we were just not destined to win. At least we got our 50 play points back. Okay. Alright, I got a lot to say about this list, and almost none of it is bad. So, this list, like I said, very reminiscent of older Tron lists. And honestly, I like it. I think losing Karn Great Creator sucks a lot, especially versus a deck like we just played with the Colossus Hammers, you know, being able to shut off all of the equip triggers and stuff like that. It makes a big difference. However, we were in the losers bracket, and we were pretty deep into the losers bracket. I think had the Yorion deck not had double Assassin's Trophy literally every game, all 3 games, we would have won that. I think if I was a better pilot and understood how to use Surgical Extraction better, especially against Dredge, I could have won that too. This league could have very easily have been a 4-1, possibly 5-0. No matchup we played against felt unwinnable, and no matchup felt unwinnable without Karn. I think you're going to lose more Tron versus Tron games without Karn Great Creator, but if you're in a non-Tron meta playing Tron like this, I think this list got merit. Having access to Triple Grave Hate with Relic of Progenitus in the main deck is huge. Having access to a Ghost Quarter and 19 lands is also huge. The Relic just being more cycling to help you get through the deck faster to play a little more consistently. This is the opposite of the threat-heavy list that I talk about. This is the consistency-heavy list. Walking Ballista, I think frequently is just going to do a bad Spatial Contortion impression with the occasional, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm playing it off Tron plus Sanctum, tutoring up Ulamog, and then I'm going to Ulamog next turn. So in this list, specifically this build, I like Walking Ballista in the main deck. And I like it in multiples in the main deck. in a build with Karn Great Creator, I think you should have Walking Ballista in the side almost exclusively, maybe as a singleton in the main deck, and depending on the meta. I think with the meta being pushed down to be as aggressive as it is with the new Blitz deck, we saw the Dredge deck, we saw Heliod Company, all of those decks, to an extent, are somewhat weak to Ballista, so having Ballistas in the main deck is an excellent meta call for the current meta game. Triple Oblivion Stone, I'm not super in love with. I understand why it's here. We need more board wipe potential, especially versus a lot of the decks that go wide. However, there's still no Blood Moon in the metagame, and Oblivion Stone is best in the against the Gruul Ponza and the black-red Seasoned Pyromancer deck that also played Blood Moon. I think you would be better off, if you were to play this list, dropping an Oblivion Stone, or 2 Oblivion Stones even, and playing 2 more Ugins, or an Ugin and an All Is Dust. I really think that would be better. Now, we got Tron fairly consistently with this deck, which, for only having 1 extra Relic of Progenitus as a consistency tool, is kind of weird. I don't know if that was just, good Tron luck this time around, or what, but frequently I would have rather had Ugin as our board wipe of choice. I wouldn't drop All Is Dust, because I think the Mind Power Tower All Is Dust, the turn 3 board wipe, is necessary sometimes, and I think you need an All Is Dust to hedge against that, but I think this list is an excellent starting point. I also really like the setup of the sideboard, because there's very little control, very little hand hate that you're going to actually have to deal with Veil of Summer. So having a couple Veil of Summer is necessary to help you in the slower control decks that will probably arise from seeing hyper-fast aggro. But I like having the 2 Dismembers in addition to the 3 Walking Ballistas. It felt like we always had access to some sort of effect to kill a threat. It's a good proportion. 3 Surgical Extractions and 3 Relic of Progenitus is a very, very strong Grave Hate package. Quadra Nature's Claim, if your opponent's playing Blood Moon, they're playing Alpine Moon, they're playing Damping Sphere, they're playing whatever. That is an appropriate response. We didn't get to see it versus Heliod Company, which is the only deck right now that I know of that plays Damping Sphere off the top of my head. Sometimes you'll see it in Jund and other lists, depending on what they're afraid of. But having access to 4 Nature's Claim is good. And I'm sorry to anybody that I was naysaying before, who was telling me, do you miss the sideboard slots? I hate having to dedicate everything for the wish board. I see what you mean. And I think, in general, the Karn Great Creator list is still better. But in a fast meta, I would rather play this. I wouldn't want to play Karn Great Creator, and I wouldn't play him over Karn Liberated either, because Karn Liberated is going to win the game harder. I don't think this list is going to work in every meta. I definitely think if the meta slows back down, the Karn Great Creator list gets better. But if you think about it, the strongest lines with Karn Great Creator are, playing Trinisphere, playing Liquid Metal Coating, blowing up your opponent's lands, 1 land a turn, consistently for the rest of the game, finding a big threat, then closing out the game, 2 turns later. Karn Great Creator is really good, but he's really slow. And in a fast meta, you need high impact, super strong cards, which is what this version does. And in reality, I think this list could use another Ugin. That's how much I feel that way. Or even a 4th Wormcoil, or even a main deck Thragtusk. But this list is pretty close to what I want to play right now in the current metagame, at least the way that it's shaken out at the moment. And yeah, so all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier. And please, if you would consider, there is a link to the Patreon in the description below if you want to contribute to this channel's growth. And there's a link to the Discord in the description. It's an open Discord. Anybody is welcome to join. But if you watch any of my VODs, you see people chatting with me in the VODs. Basically, everybody who's in Twitch chat hangs out in Discord. It's kind of like Twitch chat every day of the week. You just got to get somebody's attention, and there's generally good discussions that start going. So I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, that's good. You're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. Sorry I got tilted today, but sometimes that's going to happen. Bye.